to order. Good afternoon. Thank you for participating in the Western Riverside Council of Government Executive Committee meeting. This time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'm going to ask County Supervisor Hewitt to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Please put your right hand over your heart and repeat along with me. Ready, begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation
under God, indivisible, with liberty
And I know that County Supervisor or Chair Spiegel, I call her Karen. She'll be in just a moment. We're going to go ahead and do the roll call vote of the executive committee and supporting foundation meeting will only occur once. Jana, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Certainly. When I call your jurisdiction, if you would please state your name. City of Banning,
David Happy.
Beaumont, Calamasa,
Wendy Hewitt.
Canyon Lake,
You're welcome.
Corona, Eastvale,
Christian Dinko.
Emmett,
Russ Brown.
Roca Valley,
Chris Barajas.
Lake Elsinore, Lake Elsinore, Menifee,
Bentley Spire.
Moreno Valley,
Ed Delgado.
Murrieta,
Lori Stone,
Norco,
Kevin Bash,
Harris,
Rita Rogers.
Riverside, San Jacinto,
Crystal Ruiz,
Temecula,
James Stewart.
Wildomar,
Ben Benoit.
County District 1,
Kevin Jeffries.
District 2,
Aaron Spiegel,
District 3, District 5,
Jeff Hewitt.
Eastern Municipal Water District,
Bill Polly.
Western Municipal Water District,
Brenda Denstead,
Riverside County Superintendent of Schools, WRCOG TAC Chair.
Van Wagenen's on.
One more time for those who did not respond, City of Beaumont, Lake Elsinore,
Brian Tisdale. Sorry about that.
that's okay, and Riverside, City of Riverside, and County District 3. That concludes roll call, Madam Chair, and we have quorum.
Thank you. We will begin, as we begin all of our meetings, with the Pledge of
we already
Allegiance.
did that.
You did that. We're on roll call.
We already did roll call.
I was in the elevator. They said, okay, they're waiting. Okay. We will now recess to the executive meeting in order to convene for the supporting foundation. Those of you who remember, all of us on the board or the exec committee for WRCOG is also on the supporting foundation board. And so we will now call that meeting to order. Do we have any public comments at this time?
I have no requests.
Okay. We have the consent calendar, which everybody knows can be considered in one routine. We have A, B, C. Does anybody have any items they want to pull for discussion? When did you get your hand up?
Yes, I wanted to pull item 5G and 5I.
We are in the supporting foundation meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
It's
sorry
okay.
about that.
Just remind me of the next one because I'll forget it before then. Okay, does anybody have any items on 3A, 3B, or 3C of the supporting foundation to pull? Seeing none, the pleasure of the board.
Move to approve.
Second.
And a motion and a second.
And I'm sorry, who seconded?
County Supervisor Hewitt.
Thank you very much. City of Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont, Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Yes.
Corona,
Yes.
Eastvale,
Yes.
Emmett,
Yes.
Roca Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Murrieta,
Yes.
Norco,
yes,
Harris,
Yes.
Riverside, San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildomar,
Yes.
County District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3, District 5,
Yes.
Eastern Municipal Water District,
Yes.
and Western Municipal Water District.
Yes.
That concludes a roll call vote for the consent calendar, and those items pass unanimously.
Thank you very much. So we are now on item 4, reports, discussion, WRCOG Supporting Foundation Financial Update. Andrew?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, all. Andrew Reese, CFO at WRCOG, here to give a financial update on the WRCOG Supporting Foundation, and more specifically, where we're at with our General Assembly funding efforts. So next slide, please. So as a reminder, we adopted a budget last month under the WRCOG Supporting Foundation to reflect the General Assembly revenues and expenditures now under the Supporting Foundation as opposed to WRCOG. We budgeted our anticipated revenues at the time to come in at around $339,000 and anticipated expenditures of about $321,000, with the major expenditure categories coming from the speaker fee, catering and AV, and the hotel rooms. So next slide, please. So as of this morning, revenues are at $280,000. As of this afternoon, actually, we got an additional $6,000 in there, not factored in that number. But then in addition to that, we also have about $10,000 to $15,000 in what we're calling pending sponsorships, meaning we are in conversation with some potential sponsors, but we still haven't fully locked them up. As far as expenditures incurred as of today, they're at $189,000. And while our anticipated budget was $321,000 in that category, we are trending lower in a couple of categories there. So we do anticipate to come under budget there. And that concludes my presentation. That's a receive and file, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have anybody have any questions for Andrew? I like trending below budget. That's a good thing. As long as our expenses are higher and our incomes, no, expenses are lower and incomes higher. Have it backwards.
It was the bowl.
The bowl.
It was the
I know.
bowl you put on your head.
Maybe I should have turned it upside down,
There
right?
you go, that was
Okay, this is a receive and file, so we will move on to item 4B, amendment to WRCOG Supporting Foundation bylaw change, the date restriction of the annual meeting.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Chris Gray, WRCOG Deputy Executive Director. Next slide, please. The current bylaws for the supporting foundation set the date of the annual meeting as June, and specifically says it will be June following the WRCOG Executive Committee meeting. We have determined over the last several years this is problematic because we often have significant items at the June Executive Committee meeting, and as to make the meetings not longer than we need to, we believe that it would be beneficial to give us flexibility to set the annual meeting date on an as-needed basis. We will still be required to have an annual meeting per the bylaws of the foundation. However, if you approve this action, we will no longer be required to have it in June, and we can then set the date at a time it is needed. Next slide, please. So, Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions, but we're simply asking for adoption of this resolution, which would then amend the bylaws and give us the flexibility to have set the date of the annual meeting as needed for the supporting foundation.
You have a question? I do. Does the annual meeting have to be a separate meeting? Like we're having this foundation meeting in concurrence with our June monthly meeting. Can we not have it in concurrence with another meeting?
So based on I believe the resolution gives us the flexibility. Currently, we do not have that flexibility. I believe the resolution gives us that flexibility.
Does the resolution give us that?
Give me a second.
No, I'm looking at Mr. Duane.
Well, the resolution will not require you to couple the foundation meeting with the January EC meeting, the June EC meeting, sorry. And so you could do it with the May or March or what have you. Or you could do it at a whole separate date, although that would seem to not be very economical.
Okay, so I guess my question is, what is the purpose of the annual meeting if we can't take care of that business in either June or July's regularly exec committee meeting? Do we have to have an annual meeting?
You have to have, and as a nonprofit corporation, you have to have an annual meeting, and we have to adopt the budget and the like. So we do have to have an annual meeting. We're required to under state law. And we're just trying to give ourselves some more flexibility as to when.
No, I totally
Right.
agree, but we could tie that to like next July's meeting since you're, or if you're doing changing of the bylaws or the budget approval for the year, right? Those are the main things we have to do. is-
Right.
Correct.
So
So,
it could be in July or June.
so Madam Chair, I just double checked. The way the resolution is written, it does not require the meeting to be held concurrent with the WCOG meeting. So we could have a June 15th supporting foundation. We could have a May.
Or we could have it with the June meeting.
Yes,
Okay,
I think that, we've already done this this year right now.
this is the annual
Yeah,
meeting.
this is the annual meeting now, so let's set it up for May of next year.
Right.
A month ahead, and that way we'll have it done by the fiscal year.
Right.
And the one exception, if I could, Madam Chair, is because we are going forward relying on the foundation for General Assembly more, it may be that we will want to check in with you before then on a few things.
So just for everyone's benefit, we have noted as placeholder, the next foundation meeting will be May of 2023, but we're not required to have it on that date.
I will make that motion. I think that's the best.
I'll second.
got it, Janice?
I did not get the second.
Dale.
Thank you. Thank you. City of Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont, Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Yes.
Corona. Corona. Eastville,
Yes.
Hemet,
Yes.
Cooper Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee.
Yep.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Riverside, San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
County, I'm sorry, Wildemar,
Yes.
County District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Eastern Municipal Water District,
Yes.
and Western Municipal Water District.
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call vote for that item, and it passes unanimously.
I know it's not quite on the agenda, but I'm just gonna raise a question. So do we have, your hair is getting thinner because you're pulling it so much. This whole meeting. No, I've been watching you last month. We talk regularly. Do we have to have, when we call it the General Assembly, and we really don't have much substance in our meeting, do we have to have a meeting at the General Assembly? I mean,
Do we have to have a business meeting at the?
Yeah.
We have to have a general assembly. We could do the general assembly, but under our JPA, we have to have a general assembly, which is a meeting, which is a business meeting. We don't have to have the dinner and all that sort of stuff, and we could have
No,
the
how about the
dinner
other
at a
way
separate time.
She's a party
girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are certain items, for example, the budget and leadership, which the bylaws and JPA say have to be approved by the General Assembly.
okay. Trying to make things easier on Kurt here.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so we are now on item 5. Which is basically currently, the next supporting foundation meeting, which may change, currently is scheduled for May 1st, 2023. Mark your calendars. With that, we're going to adjourn the supporting foundation meeting and now reconvene to the executive committee meeting. Janice, do we have any public comments?
I have no requests.
Okay, we're now on the consent. Item 5. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Oh my gosh, all the way through O. Does anybody have an item they wish to pull? Wendy, you have which items again?
Yes, 5G and 5I.
I thought there are three things. Only two?
Well, 5G is quite lengthy and 5I is short.
Okay.
She's balancing it.
Okay. Does anybody else have any items they wish to pull?
Move the balance.
We have a second?
Second, Waldemar.
Jackie Casillas seconded it before Ben did.
Yes, I did, Ben.
Okay, thank you, Janice. Roll call.
City of Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont, Kellum Mesa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Yes.
Corona,
Yes.
Eastvale,
Yes.
Emmett,
Yes.
Rupa Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Murrieta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Riverside, San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildomar,
Yes.
County District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3, District 3,
Yeah, yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Eastern Municipal Water District,
Yes.
Western Municipal Water District.
Yes.
That concludes roll call vote and those items pass unanimously.
Thank you. I'm now apologizing to Janice. For the future, what we're gonna do is when we pull those items to reduce the roll calls, I was supposed to bring Wendy back up before we did roll call vote to have only one roll call for the consent. And so that was why I was dazed. Sorry, I apologize. So Wendy, you had two items. Gee, let's start with that.
Okay. So I wanted to know why the duplication in services, for instance, 1 and 4 is transportation and planning, and like 2 and 5 are housing and planning. And also how much did we spend over the last 3 years on all this? They don't seem to be consistent. There's like 600,000, 400,000, 350. I wanted to know those. And then also, how long have we, you want to answer these questions as we go along, or you want me to just ask all of them?
No, Councilor Hewitt, I'm happy to answer the question. So in terms of why there's duplication is because we have set aside through the on-call planning bench broad categories of service. So as an example, WSP is our lead study on our Nexus consultant. So we call that transportation planning. Fair and Peers also provides transportation planning services related to traffic modeling, a travel survey we'll share with you later, and other tasks, but we call that transportation planning. The way we advertise for these services is we distributed an RFP and we asked for folks to submit within broad categories. We received between 50 and 20 proposals within 3 broad categories. And then we selected firms within those categories, and the details of the categories are given in the staff report. The categories we asked for help included transportation planning, land use planning, grants. Really, it's land use planning and housing is one category, and grant writing is a separate one. So while they are within the same categories, the work that WSP is doing is different than the work Fair and Peers is doing. The work that PlaceWorks is doing is not the same as the work that WSP is doing. So there is no duplication. It may be duplicated within the category. It is not duplicated within the scope of services. And the way that this work is assigned is through an on-call task order basis. So once the contracts have been executed, staff then assigns work to the consultants through a task order. A task order is issued. It outlines the scope of services. It outlines the budget for that particular task. And then the consultants do the work. They bill the work against the task orders. The task orders are billed against the overall contract.
Okay. And then they were all different prices. I mean, shouldn't they all be the same, or how is that working? I mean, why aren't they all like 400,000 instead one's 600 and one's 350 and?
Because we're asking them all to do different things. So for example, if you look at Fair and Peers, we don't believe that the work we're going to ask them to do in the next 3 years is going to exceed $400,000. And that's our estimate based on how much funding we have available within the 3 fund sources. So this is funded through 3 different sets of funds, through LTF, through our TUMF administrative fee, and our REAP grant. So for example, Blaze and Associates is going to do grant writing for us. And we estimate that the amount of funding we have available for grant writing is about $400,000 within the next 3 years. Can you go up the next slide? We go to the next slide. So for example, WSP is $600,000 because they're our prime consultant on the Nexus study. And we expect to spend about $150,000 to $200,000 over the next year working on the Nexus study. We don't have other consultants working on the Nexus study. So we have gone through a process where we have estimated how much work each consultant will be asked to do and therefore structured the contract accordingly.
Is this based on what we've done over the last 3 years? Is that how you base it, on how much you're going to need, or has it increased, or?
It has increased because some of these funds are also going to be funded through a one-time grant we received from SCAG. We have approximately between between $1 million and $1.2 million of grant funding that we anticipate spending over the next year. Those funds will go to WSP, they will go to PlaceWorks, they will go to Blaze Associates, and they will potentially go to National Core, depending on how much work that's needed. So what I would say is this is a little bit higher than what we've historically spent, because we will be spending that $1 million of one-time grant funding over the next year.
Mm-hmm. Also, how long have we worked with the National Community Renaissance of California? I was wondering because I know that Rick Bishop came to us recently and gave us a card and said he was working for them. So I was a bit concerned that we're working with them now, and he, worked on WRCOG in the past.
So National Community Renaissance has worked with us through 2017. I will tell you that on the proposal they submitted, Mr. Bishop is not listed as a staff person. We also, have the ability as the contracting agency to specify who works on our projects. Mr. Bishop is not listed in the proposal. He's not listed in the sheet of staff people who are working on the project, and he is not listed on their rate sheet.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Did you want me to go to I, or you want me? Wait, okay.
No.
I just wanted a little bit more explanation. I mean, this one, I'm not real familiar with all the basis points on page 198 that they're talking about. Can somebody explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of what PFM is going to actively be managing, they're entitled based on this to a certain percentage, which are the basis points. So the basis points are a certain percentage. So 10 basis points is a certain percentage versus 25, and there's a scale that goes up to that. So we have worked with PFM in the past, and they were our investment advisors previously. However, we did go out to an RFP just because we've been with them for 5 years. And I do want to say that this reflects what we previously were charged by PFM.
Mm-hmm. So they're only working with like 40 million right now. So if it goes up, then the basis points go up, right?
So depending on the scale, yes. So as it reads right now, there's a 7 basis points on the next $50 million. So 10 basis points for the first 25 million. So as the amount that's actively managed by PFM goes up, the amount of basis points they're entitled to goes down. So it slides down.
All right, thank you.
Dale, you had your hand up earlier.
Answered, the question was answered in the conversation. Good.
Anybody have a question? Thank you, Wendy, for pulling these two items. And sorry, Janice, can you do a roll call for those two items?
City of Banning?
Yes.
Banning, thank you. Beaumont? Mesa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake?
Oh, Janice,
Yes, Madam Chair.
did you get a motion and a second for that?
I did not.
Neither did we.
Motion to approve Paris.
Moreno Valley second.
Thank you.
Acclamation.
This we got it early, right?
You know, this is not been a good day.
Canyon Lake,
Yes.
Corona,
Yes.
He only had.
Eastdale,
Yes.
Emmett,
Yes.
Hoover Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Murrieta,
Yes.
Norco. City of Norco. Paris,
Yes.
Riverside, San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemar,
Yes.
County District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3, District 3, District 5,
Yes.
Eastern Municipal Water District,
Yes.
Western Municipal Water District.
Yes.
That concludes the roll call vote for those two items, and they also
I'm
passed.
sorry,
unanimously.
I had trouble with I'm having trouble. I
So, and his trouble leaked over into the third district. I'm a yes.
Okay, District 3, that was a yes, and Norco? Your vote, sir?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very
yes.
much.
I have a new microphone. I'm sorry. It's messing up.
Concludes the roll call vote, Madam Chair.
Okay, now we are on item 6, reports and discussion. We're going to the Cal Cities activities update. Erin, are you on?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Executive Committee members. It's nice to see all of you today. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to give you a couple legislative updates. There is almost $100 billion surplus that the state is seeing this year. The budget is supposed to be passed by June 15th, so next Wednesday. There is an agreed upon framework for the budget, but we're still waiting on some additional details of exactly what is in it. And then I'm sure, as you all remember, that they will pass the budget in concept with some items, big bucket items, but then they'll pass all the trailer bills later. So we will definitely be waiting for all of those as well. But we do have some asks out there for the budget. We have $500 million that we're asking for to create a housing and economic development program. Obviously, when redevelopment went away, it made it really challenging to do affordable housing projects. So this is something that we're hoping to get back to help all of you with affordable housing projects. We're asking for $933.5 million for unfunded mandates. This is basically getting back the money that the state owes to all local governments, so cities, counties, special districts. Out of that 933.5, it's 466.6 million that are owed to our cities. So we're really hoping that this is something that they would also agree to, since it is money that they already owe you. And then lastly, we're asking for 180 million to help with organic waste recycling. This is the 1383 implementation. We received some funding last year in the budget, but it definitely wasn't enough. So this is another pot that we're asking for. I am hearing rumors that this is likely included in the framework, which is good news, but we haven't heard if it will be the full request or just a portion of it. So I know some of you have sent letters in on all of these requests. Would really like to encourage you to keep talking to our legislators about them. I think that this funding is very reasonable. I think that with the 100 billion surplus that the state is experiencing, I think that they should be funding our local government. So please make sure you're talking to our legislators. A couple bills I also wanted to flag. One, for those of you that have children's camps in your cities, there's a bill, AB 1737 by Holden, that would implement a series of reporting and inspection requirements for you as cities for these children camps. The author is working with us though, so we are hopeful that we'll have some amendments that will make this bill a lot better. But right now we've expressed our concerns and we are working with them. Another bill, and I know a lot of you have been supporting this as well, so thank you in advance, but it's AB 1985. This is a bill that we're sponsoring. Basically, this would create an online database of organic waste products to allow local governments to connect with farmers, community members who are seeking products. And this is really to help you with your compost requirements under the 1383 requirements. So since you have to procure a lot of this, we're just trying to make it a little bit easier for you to get rid of it. AB 2011 is a housing bill by WIX. It's the Affordable Housing and High Roads Jobs Act of 22. This is one that it's a very big priority bill. We are opposing it. It would require all cities to ministerially approve without conditions or discretion certain affordable housing and mixed use developments in areas in your city where you allow for retail, parking, and office space, regardless of what your general plans say. So really, this is taking a lot of your local control for your planning away. I have not received a lot of letters on this. It already made it through the assembly. It's in the Senate. We really need your help in the Senate. This was one that basically has been proposed every year in the past. It didn't make it through, but this is the one that they're saying kind of meets the requirements that they asked for in the past. So it's going to be very difficult for us to kill this. So I really do need your help in sending in those letters in the Senate.
What was that one again, Aaron? The AB, what number?
2011.
Thank you.
And then I know this is one that, for those of you that sit on RCTC, it's one of their priority bills that they've been discussing recently, but AB 2237 is also a priority bill for us. Basically, this would say that any project funded with local tax measure dollars must align with the state's sustainable community strategies and meet the state's climate goals. So this could really jeopardize a lot of our transportation projects. I know that RCTC and Mayor, I know that they've been out talking about this. We're aligned with the opposition with them. So please get your letters in. I know that it would help all of us, and we just really can't afford for our projects to be in jeopardy. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions. I know I sent out some other action alerts in the past. Just please encourage you to get, like I said, all of these letters in, but also just to talk to your legislators as you're meeting with them or seeing them out and about in the communities.
Any comments or questions for Aaron? Nope. Thank you, Aaron. Okay, now we have Kurt up. We're going to have Kurt talk about the nominations for the executive committee leadership for next year.
Thank you. Next slide, please. As you're aware, this is the time of year where we go through the process to determine who will fill the leadership roles within this body. This body makes a recommendation, and the General Assembly, when they meet on June 23rd, will be asked to finalize those recommendations. You have the current chair, vice chair, and second vice chair listed on the screen. We went through a process to determine a level of interest. Next slide, please. The Administration and Finance Committee met last month. Made a recommendation, as you see on your screen, which would be Christopher Ruiz for chair, Chris Barajas for vice chair, and Rita Rogers for second vice chair. Next slide. Next slide. And the recommendation is to consider, is to make a recommendation to the General Assembly of the lists that have been forwarded by the Administration and Finance Committee. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I'd like to know the thought process.
I'm sorry, what?
Positions, the thought process for the selection of the positions.
It went to the Admin and Finance Committee. Does anybody have, Jackie has asked what the thought process for.
I just didn't receive a call or any explanation for not being selected. So I'd just like to know why.
Oh.
Email go out asking for nominations.
I'm sorry, did you ask whether an email went out looking for nominations?
I asked yes. Did an email go out asking for nominations for those positions?
Yes, it
Yes.
is.
So that's the answer to her question, isn't it?
No,
No,
she's
I-
asking, once we made the decision, nobody was notified. Is that what you're saying? There was no follow-up email letting
Oh.
those who put their name in the
Applied.
hat.
So with respect to the process that obviously I can't speak to sort of how that came about. The meeting itself received a nomination for a candidate and sort of went through the regular process. With respect to notifications, we didn't make any notifications because at that point was still, much like this point, just a recommendation. We'd be happy to make that change in the future if that's the preference, but we didn't choose to proactively notify anyone of the recommendation component of it. But as far as what happened at the actual meeting, that part actually is still recorded. But I'm not sure that I could speak to sort of the thought process or anything that happened along the lines.
Does anybody know in the past years, has there been, there's not been, we have,
And as Kurt said, in the past, because it is a recommendation. It is not the final, the admin committee does not make the final action, it makes a recommendation. It's discussed in open session. As Kurt said, the meeting is recorded because the admin committee's action is not final.
Wendy?
Yeah, I was just curious on how they go about that decision, just for future, if I wanted to throw my hat in again, what the requirements were or what they're looking for, or.
So in this case, I assume we're talking about the Administration and Finance Committee. This was the one time that the committee had the conversation, so I'm not sure there was a clear set of additional guidelines. I don't recall any scenario where the members sort of got together and determined criteria, nothing along those lines.
Yeah, I guess I'd have the same, maybe for next time, the same kind of thoughts as Wendy's, which were, understanding what it is, what the thought process is, what the guidelines are. This is my second time putting my name in the hat, and so just wondering, why, the why behind it, or what it is that the team is looking for, so that, I want to do it again.
The only recommendation I could make would be that when the process comes up next year, prior to the actual vote, the Administration and Finance Committee may want to take up the item just to sort of have a conversation about some of those things. I don't know whether or not they would have a whole lot to offer up, but if they chose to, they would be then able to have the conversation about here's what we're looking for. And they could do that prior to soliciting nominations, if that were the wish of the committee.
I just to tag on what Jackie's saying, I do know that in the conversation, we were talking about not having a lot of information on the individuals, just what we had. So we probably need like an application so that you could explain what you're doing, so that the committee had a little more meat to pick from. I know that one thing was longevity. The only new one that was added was Rita. Rita had just been in much longer. I think that was, if I remember correctly, you can listen to the tape, but she has been on WRCOG for a length of time. And that was, I think, if I recall, was one of the big weighted factors for her. So I think for next year, under your suggestion, is more of an application so that you have an opportunity to give us information.
Sure, yeah.
And I think that would be a good process to begin.
And then again, these are all just suggestions from a
Right.
smaller body, and they don't dictate the outcome. I mean, if
Correct.
somebody feels like voting for somebody else, they can do that.
I guess it goes back to your point of if we had an application, then you would actually have information to maybe recommend someone else from this level. Right now, there's not much we have to say. It'd be nice, of course, there's some criteria, encouragement about what they should put on their application. We're looking for longevity or skill set or
Right.
specific experience or something. So this is not a were on there. That would probably be helpful.
Hey, Madam Chair, would it be an application or a memorandum of interest?
You
Would
have
it be
to
an
be checked.
application or a memorandum of interest?
I heard it the first time. Probably an interest, because that's what it is, and makes throwing their name in the
Right.
hat.
That's what I was thinking.
1 hour speech.
No.
Wendy, is your hand back up or is it?
Yes, it is. So let me get this straight. That at the General Assembly, we are going to vote on this, or?
Yes.
And we can nominate somebody else, or how's that gonna work?
You could. The problem is, you're gonna have 700-800 people there. And so it's gonna be a little, that's why I like the idea with Jackie suggesting more of a process so that it's not just.
Right.
Here, stamp, move.
There needs to be a little bit better process. I don't, I thought maybe I was gonna give a little bio of myself. I didn't hear anything else from anybody, so.
Well, I will just say this is the way it's been done in the
Madam
past.
Chair, as
Yes.
a practical matter, and I think this is a good thing. The vice chair moves up to chair and et cetera. That as a practical matter, we're really only voting on
The second.
that second VP spot, second vice chair, because we want to have that continuity of people who've been in that officer position move up. That's why I think we're supporting Krista. So it's not like we're looking for a whole new slate, but the process probably could be tweaked a bit.
No, and I appreciate you, both Wendy and Jackie for bringing this forward, because unless someone says something, we keep doing the same thing. Change is good. We want to improve. So, Jackie, I hold you responsible to make sure we follow up on that. Whatever Mr. Delgado wants to call it, an application or interest. Let's make sure that we don't drop the ball.
You got it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would just add, historically, though, persons considered for any of the chair positions are members of the Admin and Finance Committee.
Oh, that's true.
So what I would suggest, just as a general rule, if you do want to be a larger part of WRCOG, being a part of the admin committee, it's typically that, in the time I've been here, it's been that stepping stone to leadership.
Did you all hear what Chris just said? It was kind of soft spoken.
Then I would say the same needs to happen for that process too.
Sure.
We
I-
need to have-
I just shared with everyone that historically leadership positions are selected from members of the Administration and Finance Committee. So I would suggest if you are interested in being a member of that and are not, the person to talk to is our forthcoming chair, Crystal Ruiz, because the chair selects the admin committee.
Do the bylaws specifically say the past chair is present?
Yes. And the 2 county supervisors, so we got you both ways. So you will never leave the admin committee. We got you.
And there's a position for the water districts per the bylaws.
Yes.
Supervisor Jeffries.
I couldn't quite hear Chris's answer. Do the bylaws specify that you have to be on the admin finance committee to be considered, or is that just a practice?
That's been our practice. Mr. DeBon has indicated they do not. However, in the time I've been here, I don't recall a member of leadership who is not on the admin committee. And the admin committee also specifies that if you're a member of leadership, you're automatically on the admin if you're not already. So one way or another, you'll be on the admin committee as a member of WRCOG leadership.
Thank you.
So are you asking to be on the admin committee, Supervisor Jeffries?
Hell no.
Okay.
Can I make that nomination?
Okay, do I hear a second? Yeah, really. Okay, so This is a recommendation, so we need to make a motion to move this forward for the General Assembly until we make changes on how we're gonna do that. But right now, we have a motion.
This is Wildemar. I'll move approval.
Second.
Elkin, second.
I heard Menifee as a second.
Sure.
I think it was Dinko and Matt at the same time.
Right, well, Menifee's box lit up yellow, so that's who I went with. City of Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont, Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Yes.
Corona,
Yes.
Eastvale,
Yes.
Emmett,
Yes.
Garupa Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Murrieta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Riverside, San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemar,
Yes.
County District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3. District-
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
yes,
District
yes,
5,
yes.
District 5,
Vote early and vote often. What do you say? I guess.
Wow.
Eastern Municipal Water District,
Yes.
Western Municipal Water District.
Yes.
That concludes the roll call vote and that item passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you, Janice. Okay, we're now on request to authorize annual.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Madam Chair,
yes, sir.
could I ask, before we move on to the next item, while we're still kind of near the General Assembly, Kurt, I sent you a text a couple weeks of a response I got from Pachanga, but I didn't get a response from you, so I didn't know if you got it or not.
I did not get any text from you.
Okay. Maybe I don't have the correct number. I got a text from Jacob Mahia at Pachanga, letting me know that that's had in the past. Are you able to hear me now?
I heard part of what you said. I believe that you
No.
got a text from Jacob Mahia about their sponsorship, and yes, Pachanga did come in with the sponsorship for us at $50,000.
Supervisor Washington. if you
Yes,
close-
that was what the text was.
If you turn off your video, that might help with your connectivity just a little bit.
Okay. How's that? Is that better?
Yes,
sir.
Okay, that helped. Yeah, that was what the text was that I sent you, Kurt. You got the message, so just wanted to make sure you understood.
Thank you.
Okay, we are on item C. Mr. Daly is going to ask us to authorize an annual levy assessment for the PACE program.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Casey Daly, Director of Energy and Environmental Programs. It's everybody's favorite time of the year, the annual authorization of levying assessments for our PACE program. Next slide, please. PACE financing is repaid through a line item on property owners' annual property tax bill. While there are no new residential assessments that are being issued, there still remain approximately 26,467 active assessments that continue to be serviced by WRCOG. On an annual basis, WRCOG is required to adopt resolutions allowing the placement of the outstanding assessments on the property tax bill for the upcoming year. The placement of the assessments on the tax bills is required to ensure that the assessments are paid in full, which in turn allows WRCOG to make payments on the bonds issued as part of the program. If a property owner is unable to make their payment, WRCOG is contracted with a third party to cover the delinquent amounts owed, so no residential property owner will be subject to a foreclosure proceeding initiated by WRCOG. Next slide, please. That concludes my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions. We have a number of requested actions. I'm not going to read them, but these are all the appropriate resolutions that need to be adopted so that we can levy the assessments on the respective counties.
Yes.
Just to clarify, on one is different, it just catches any of those counties that we didn't include or something. Because I know it's mostly counties, several, right? And so one is just kind of anything that's in the so we don't have to put 50 cents.
It's a bit of a catch-all. We have bond counsel here that can answer some of the specifics of it.
So different counties have different requirements, and so some specifically require that you adopt a separate resolution, and those that do not, we combine it into one, so you don't have even more resolutions to adopt.
Otherwise, we have probably 8 or so resolutions for each county. that we work
Yeah.
with.
If there's no other comments, I'll make that motion.
So that is for C1 through,
C1 through
16.
16.
okay, we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, Janice, your game now.
City of Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont, Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Yes.
Corona,
Yes.
Eastville,
Yes.
Emmett,
Yes.
Rupa Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Murrieta. Murrieta. Norco?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Norco, that was a yes. Paris,
Yes.
Riverside, San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildomar,
Yes.
County District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Eastern Municipal Water District,
Yes.
Western Municipal Water District.
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes roll call vote for that item, and it passes unanimously.
Okay, now we have the biggie.
All right. Well, Mr. Davies said that, you know, levy and assessments was your favorite time of the year, but clearly in his budget. So next slide, please. So we've gone through the budget process this year. As you recall, we've gone through it between here, finance, tax, and A&F a number of times, with the exception of a fellowship tweak that we made following the last time the item was at this committee. There really haven't been any changes to the budget, so I'll do the quick version, but happy to answer any more detailed questions if there are any. But since you've seen this multiple times and have hopefully gotten a hard copy of the budget a couple of weeks ago, we don't want to belabor the points. Transportation and planning, we would just point out that as expected, we have a pretty sizable gap between the revenues and expenditures. And again, that's not because we don't know what to do with the money, but rather because those funds, particularly related to TUMP, are funds that got collected over a long period of time because they're very expensive projects. And we don't spend it as fast as we get it because we work toward those strategic goals. Next slide, please. Within the transportation and planning side, there are a number of projects underway. As you can see from the top part of the screen, as well as the bottom part of the screen. Next slide. Those projects are aligned now with the strategic goals that you set when you did your strategic planning session. In this case, there are goals 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 that are addressed in some way by the budget proposed for transportation and planning. Next slide. Energy and environments, you'll notice the difference between revenues and expenditures is nothing like what it is in TUMP. This is a much tighter budget. We don't have those same long-term projects that go along with things. Next slide. Again, a number of things that are underway with respect to the various programs that touch this department. Next slide. And again, for goals, we have a number of goals that are addressed in some way by the energy and environment budget as proposed. Next slide. Administration, which in this context includes things like HR and finance and me, all lumped into one piece. So you'll see, that's right, a big lump of clay. We have a number of things going on. This is where largely a lot of the sort of behind the scenes work, the changes to procurement and contracts and formalizing, a lot of the formalizing we're doing within the agency falls within this side. Next slide. And again, those things will continue. Most of them you're aware of. When we get to the meeting on June 24th, we'll provide a brief update on where we are with the strategic plan so far. We're getting to about mid-year. Next slide. And again, that touches on a number of the goals from the strategic plan. Next slide. Here's just a snapshot of the budgets by fund. And again, budgeting by fund is new for us this year. That's not something we've previously done. So rather than budgeting by program, we're now budgeting by fund. I would point out the red for the net annual activity being negative, that you'll see a lot more of this than you see in your agencies. And it's actually a reflection of the difference between how we're funded versus how your agencies are funded. So essentially, many of our programs are such that we get some pot of money, and then our job is to spend it down over time as we accomplish a certain task. So because of our funding sources, we're intended to go negative each year, which is very different. So again, you'd see much more red here than you would see in your own member agency budgets. Next slide. Again, for the total revenues agency-wide, I would point out what a big chunk TUMP is. So as you'll see, TUMP in blue is the lion's share of the total revenues. Next slide. When you look to the general fund revenues, you'll see TUMP as a proportion shrinks considerably. And that's just a reflection of the TUMP money doesn't generally stay with us. We sort of hang on to it, but it goes out to the member agencies to do projects in their areas. Next slide. Again, just a breakdown by funds with the expenditure of $46 million. Next slide. So again, we've got a balanced budget compared to the current year. We've closed 4 programs, eliminated 3 positions related to WCE, added 2 positions, one for Twin Cities and one for IREN. The fellowship program has no change. We've got the unallocated labor increase, and we've got the full launch of the IREN. Next slide. And much like the leadership positions, the request here is if you are comfortable that you make the recommendation of approval to the General Assembly for their consideration on June 23rd. And happy to answer any questions. And I see the chair has gotten her book to double check.
The one thing I can't find is how many total staff do we have?
It should be in there. I can. Okay. Nobody.
I'm just gonna ask you how many. They know you have some allocated, and then some of these people were allocated more than one. I know you would be. Oh.
It's really tiny.
So we're only increasing 1 position.
Yes, because yes, as a net, yes.
As a net. Okay. For everybody, it's 35 positions in WR code. Are there any additional questions? Okay. With that, we need to recommend to the General Assembly to approve this draft budget. Do I have a second?
Waldemar,
Sure.
second.
Janice, you get those 2?
I have a motion by San Jacinto and a second by Wildemar.
Yes.
City of Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont, Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Yes.
Corona.
Yes.
Eastville,
Yes.
Hemet,
Yes.
Rupa Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Murrieta. City of Murrieta.
Yes.
Thank you. Norco,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Riverside, San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemar,
Yes.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Eastern Municipal Water District,
Yes.
Western Municipal Water District.
Yes.
That concludes the roll call vote for that item. It passes unanimously.
Okay. I was just reading a message from you, Mr. Van Wagenen. You have a report for us from the technical committee.
Thank you, Chair. The day job got in the way, hence the text to you. My apologies. I do not have a presentation from the TAC today. We spent time on the agency draft budget and received an update on the Santa Ana Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Permit Program. But other than that, we don't have an update for the group.
Thank you. Any of the committees? Mr. Tisdale, do you have a report for CalCog?
I do not, Madam Chair.
Crystal for Sunday.
We're gonna make it short? No.
Okay, Mr. Hoffman, are you on this call?
Yes, ma'am, I am. Thank you, Madam Chair. OWA did not meet, but we did, Sopwa did. And in May, the commission approved amendment to the Middle Santa Ana River Watershed Task Force Agreement. That's going to extend until June of 2027. And this carries what this is going to do is they're going to check for the bacterial indicators for the Middle Santa Ana River water bodies along there so that we can make sure it is okay to be in the water. And then for those that didn't know, those stakeholders that are part of that include the County of San Bernardino, the County of Riverside, the cities of Chino, Chino Hills, Claremont, Corona, Eastvale, Fontana, Rupa Valley, Montclair, Norco, Ontario, Pomona, Rancho Cucamonga, Rialto, Riverside, and Upland, as well as the agricultural operators within the Chino Basin and the Wastemaster Agricultural Pool, along with UC Riverside. So this report, and they're going to continue again till 2027. And the side note is they're checking on the pigs and the effect in the river. So that concludes my report.
Pigs in the river.
You know, there are feral pigs that defecate all over. They're trying to see if it causes a great environmental concern.
Okay. That's what I just.
Hey, I'm just reading my report.
Thank you very much, Ted.
All
You
right.
always have good information you share. Okay, Mr. Benoit, AQMD.
Afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I don't have anything to report as far as pigs, but I do want to report a couple of things with AQMD. One, we've been pushing out this information quite a bit. So you might have heard about it, especially if you were at SCAG. And basically, the bottom line is AQMD, our entire board unanimously has taken the approach of going ahead and at least threatening to sue the federal government due to their inaction on our plan from 2016. This is the air quality mitigation plan. So they have not taken action on that. There was another outside group that was threatening to do the same thing. And rather than let that outside group drive the bus, as it were, we want to go ahead and get involved and make sure that we're in discussions with the feds on how they're going to or not going to address our 2016 AQMP. Also, we're hard at work on that. We're also in the middle of creating our new AQMP that'll be coming out later this year. And actually the first large-ass public meeting on that will be in August. It'll be the first week of August, first Friday of August. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure there'll be lots of other information coming out about that in the near future. But bottom line is, folks, that we are not at federal attainment. We will have not gotten there by one of the attainment dates that actually comes up next year. And really what we're having to do in our new AQMP is having to figure out basically what else was left to pull. And if there's nothing else left to pull, then how can we make sure the feds and the state step up and start doing their job as well? So it's very interesting times as we go into these next few years at AQMD, mainly because we are definitely not going to meet the federal attainment for ozone that's coming up next year.
How exciting. Okay. Do we have any regional council members or policy members from SCAG that would like to make a report? Nope. Those of you who don't know, Clinton Lorimar is our outgoing chair of SCAG from Riverside County, and our incoming chair is now Jan Harnick from Riverside County. So I was trying to find out if this is the first time that we had back-to-back, but very difficult to have that accomplishment, but Riverside has had back-to-back chairs, so it's good. Okay, we are now on my report. Well, we're getting down to the wire, guys. And I think that I just want to thank Kurt. He has just been on it I call him day and night, text him day and night about the General Assembly. We're excited about it this year and hoping that all of you will be there, that you'll fill your tables with your city folks. If you got any questions about that, please ask now. Janice is pulling her hair out, getting some of those final details that we need to make sure we have. And actually, that's the focus right now is General Assembly. Just, well, how many days away is it, Kurt?
16.
16
No,
days.
Well, 18 for the big. yes.
Okay, 18 days. Does anybody have any questions on General Assembly before we? Okay, I
Are the
do.
seats- Are the seats comfortable?
We're gonna make
Should
sure
we bring
yours
our
is all wood
ballpark
with
ones?
splinters.
That's our outgoing thing. That's it.
We do have a couple of folks. We wish you all good luck on your election tomorrow. And we do have a couple, I see Ben up there and Jeff, who else is on?
So are you. There could be a writing.
Yes, my name is on the ballot.
And
Okay.
Ben, would that make
It's
this
a
Ben's
little
last
turnout.
meeting?
No, no.
No. Regardless, I'd be on till the end of the year.
Yeah,
Nice.
we're not sworn in until January, so you're on
Nice.
until the next person that
You get
replaces
sworn
you.
in, then you get swore at.
Yeah. Okay, we are now moving on to our executive director.
All right, so, well, first, in non-general assembly news, the commercial PACE program is doing very well. And Casey and his team have been able to close some projects in our local area as well. So we'll get you a written update on some of those things, but that's going very well. And it's always good to see some of those projects that hit locally. With General Assembly, the most important part is for your room and meal choices. We want to double and triple check to make sure we've got everything just right. So you'll get an email somewhere around the end of the week with what we have for you. If anything is wrong, please let us know right away. I know for many agencies, there are different people who are handling different things, and we're hoping to avoid any surprises when we show up on that Thursday night. The staff has been working really hard on General Assembly. So as you see them, those of you who are in the room, or as you get to General Assembly and you'll see any of the 27 folks we have volunteering there, please thank them. They've not only worked very hard, just normal, but for many of them, it's been a very difficult time with a lot of sort of non-work things that are going on. So they've been real troopers at coming forward and getting all those things done. Thank you again for the filming, for everybody who's been able to connect. We have made connections with every member agency. Just finishing the logistics on the last few of those, but we've gotten that stuff all squared away. I, as the person who's always worried about the worst case scenarios, would encourage you to be as cautious as you can in the next couple of weeks. As COVID is starting to pop up a little bit, this would not be an ideal time to have to quarantine. So I'm recommending everybody take a little bit of extra help along the way to get that squared away. And the last piece that will be different for this year is when we get to the voting part. So Steve and I have been sort of talking through how we do the voting when we get to the actual General Assembly. This is an actual Brown Act meeting noticing. We have to put notice, do all the same things that we normally would do. It is not a hybrid meeting, which is a relief for many people. But one of the big reasons it's not a hybrid meeting is if we were to do the AB 361 version of the meeting, one of the things we would have to do is a roll call vote for each of the items that we do. As you're aware, there are just over 100 voting members for the General Assembly, so that's a little bit difficult. When we do the actual votes, we also need to have some way of capturing them. So when you check in at the registration booth, you'll get a card similar to an auction when you go to auctions. So when we get to the actual vote, we're actually going to request that you hold those up, and then we will take photographs or video of those, so we have something to go back to later to demonstrate what's going on. So we're still working through all the little tweaks of how to make that work, but just want to give you a heads up because some of you may not like the idea of having to hold up a card. So I wanted to warn you now, so that way you can be all squared away by the time we get there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good. We're now on item 11. Are there any items for future agendas? None? Any general announcements? Okay, we are now going to go into closed session. Got a couple of items, hopefully it won't take too long, so stay on. Janice, you want to take over on,
Yeah, if I could just make, I do need to make one announcement. There are 4 closed sessions regarding existing litigation, and then in addition, there is a closed session related to a claim that we received on behalf of John B. Koch. That's it.
And Janice, we have some folks who are going to not go for the first part of closed session, but will come back, so they may self-identify. And Mr. Clemmer will be joining us for the
Steve?
first part of closed session as well.
Okay, and Russ Brown is remote.
Oh, yeah.
And he'll be recusing himself from the closed session bankruptcy item.
should anybody with WCE?
And I will also be recusing myself, Ben Benoit.
Seems that they are. I've said.
And I will also, Janice, just Rita Rogers.
Strict requirement that people are.
Okay, I just confer with Steve DeBon. He's saying it's not a requirement to recuse yourself, but you certainly may if you're on the WCE board. Your choice.
Yep.
Okay. All right,
And I can't see from there, Mr. Clemmer, are you on?
sure. So,
I am on. Can you hear me?
I
Yes.
can.
and we see you now.
All right. So Dennis, are we good to go?
I'm moving people into the waiting room.
Oh, okay.
Don't move me in the waiting room.
I wonder if we can move into the big board.
Ones I got.
I think we'll stop screen sharing because there won't be anything left. It should be that speaker.
I know you. Well, I kind of started reading what Russ had said, and I wanted to see what he said. And it was just basically he was bailing.
Okay, would you like a roll call for closed session?
I need to be in the. Am I in the waiting room?
Okay.
Can we stop the recording?
Yes.
And Janice, both